Matthew Brandt. I'm serving as the student body president at Fort Hays State University and will be moderating this evening's forum. Before we begin, please, audience, silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate so as not to disturb the candidates as they answer questions. So everybody, welcome to tonight's candidate forum presented by the FHSU Student Government Association and Hays Area Chamber of Commerce. We would like to extend a special thank you to our corporate sponsor, Midwest Energy. We are pleased to have you all here. We are very excited to welcome our Hays City Commissioner candidates, Chris Stinkle, Sandy Jacobs, John Mayers, Sean Musil, and Dustin Roths. Before we begin, I must disclose information to ensure the complete transparency of this event. First of all, the Student Government Association would like to inform you that in the planning stages of this forum, the following candidates were contacted and invited to attend this evening: Chris Stinkle, Sandy Jacobs, John Mayers, Sean Musil, and Dustin Roths. The order in which the candidates are sitting before you was predetermined by a random number generator prior to this evening. To begin this evening's forum, each candidate will receive 2 minutes for their opening statement. Following this, we will begin the forum. After I ask each question, each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer the question. After approximately 30 minutes, we will complete this portion of the forum and move on to questions from the audience. Please utilize the papers that have been laid out on the chairs to ask any questions that you have for the candidates. Our runners, members of the Student Government Association, will be picking up questions throughout the forum. Please write your question down and raise your hand for them to collect it. They will then take it to the 3 unbiased screeners to my left, Riley Fronick, Lucy Partlow-Boyal, and Patrick D. Roscoe, who will read the questions and pass them to my timer, Brent Hirsch. Any questions that are deemed inappropriate by these screeners will not be read. As time is limited, we will likely not have a chance to ask the candidates all the audience's questions, so please feel free to reach out to candidates after the forum with your questions. The candidates will have the same amount of time to answer each question as before. After approximately 30 minutes, we will move on to closing statements. Each candidate will receive 1 minute for their closing statement. After the conclusion of this forum, we will begin the forum with the USD 489 Board of Education candidates. Again, thank you for your support, and we are pleased to have you here. Before the forum, we ran the candidate's name through a generator to determine the order of opening statements and the seating chart. Sean Musil will be the first to give his opening statement whenever you are ready.
Thank you. Thank you for having us all tonight. I want to thank the Student Government Association, Hays Chamber of Commerce, and Midwest MG for having this. I think this is very important, not only to get the students involved, but the community involved. My wife actually a few years ago was part of the Student Government Association, so I blame her for making me do something like this. So, no, I just appreciate, I guess, the residents of Hays for giving me the opportunity to be a city commissioner the last 4 years. And when I first sat up here, I was definitely the new guy by many years. And I felt like I had some really good guys to not necessarily train me, but guide me along the way, and always encourage me to speak my opinion. And I appreciate that. And for me, the most eye-opening for me is just sitting down with the local residents, whether it's the barber shop, the donut shop, just anywhere, and just getting questions from them directly. I feel like that's kind of been my strong point. This is probably not my strong point, doing this in big groups, but I love sitting down one-on-one and trying to answer people's questions. And I think our city, the economy is down right now with oil prices, but our city is in really good shape because of the way it's been run for not only the last 4, but the last 10 to 12 years. And I think there's some things we need to work on, and I hope the residents will give me a chance to have another 4 years. And I've started my door-to-door campaign, and I've really enjoyed it so far. And I hope I get another 4 years. And thank you.
Chris, whenever you're ready.
All right. My name is Chris Stinkle. I'm a native Haysian, Hayesite, or I'm Hayesish, or I'm just from Hays. I'm married to the beautiful Albanian finance wizard at Link Inc. named Ervi Stinkle, and we have an 8-month-old son named William. I'm the marketing coordinator at High Plains Mental Health Center, as well as an adjunct professor of history here at Fort Hays. Being a historian by training, I've always loved politics. I've been involved in several political campaigns. This is the first time I've ever run for office. I want to start by saying that the city of Hays is one of the best managed cities I've ever been around. Our tax rates are low, our budget is balanced, our streets are clean, and our parks are nice. And when I started to consider running for office, I really had no complaints about the way the city is run, and I still don't, much to these two's credit. However, we need more than management if we're going to tackle the challenges facing our city. In an industrial world, rural populations diminish over time. And for the city of Hays to thrive in the long term, we need to learn to compete in an urbanizing world. To do that, we need ideas, we need vision, and we need leadership. We need leaders who will recognize the problems for what they are and not spend all of their energy fighting the symptoms of deeper problems. We need leaders who will recognize that the world is changing and find ways to adapt. We need leaders who will do more than manage. We need leaders who will lead. I may sound pompous saying this, but hey, I'm running for office, so I've got to be a little bit self-absorbed. I believe I'm that kind of leader. I see the problems for what they are and would be instrumental in developing solutions if given the chance. We're not in a crisis as a city, but if we don't start reading the writing on the wall, we will be. We need to move beyond blaming our waning economy on low oil prices or commodity prices and start looking for ways to grow both in population and in industry. With challenges come opportunities, but we need leaders who will recognize and make the most of them. I will be that kind of leader for the city of Hays if you give me that opportunity.
Thank you. Sandy, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. First, I'd like to also thank the SGA and the Hays Area Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event tonight. It really is nice to have the group here. I'm Sandy Jacobs. I was born and raised in Hays. I've been married to my husband, Dan, for 48 years. Some might say that's who's put up with me for 48 years. We have 2 children and 4 grandchildren, and this community has been very, very good to my family. I spent the last 8 months serving an unexpired term on the Hays City Commission. Originally, in applying for the seat, all I knew is that I wanted to continue serving this community. 40 years of financial experience and 40 years of volunteering with countless organizations in this community give me, I think, a good look at all sectors of the community. I took on the challenge as a result of my belief and passion for what this community is and what it can be. My friends and family encouraged me to continue to serve to make sure your taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. In my opinion, it's vitally important to maintain the 2 most important aspects of living in Hays, and that's sustainable economic growth and strong quality of life for the people that live here. My values are simple. I believe in listening to all opinions and setting aside anecdotal information. I independently research issues. I believe in transparency, and I believe that knowledge is power. I believe in looking at each opportunity on its own merit. Finally, I think collaboration is a necessity when making decisions for this community, whether they be economic development or otherwise. We have great collaborators to join in with us in this community: Fort Hays State University, Hays Med, North Central Kansas Vo-Tech, all the businesses in this community, and most importantly, the city and county working together. I believe when trying to grow our community, these entities should be shoulder to shoulder as we work every approach we go after. Throughout my career, I believed in doing things that made sense for all parties, and I continue that belief as a city commissioner.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
John, whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is John Mayers. I'm 38 years old. I'm married. My wife, Melissa, works for Fort Hays State University, and we have 2 daughters. I grew up in the rural town of Albert, Kansas, just southeast of here. After high school, I lived in Manhattan, Kansas, while earning my degree at Kansas State University. And initially after, I moved to Hays, Kansas approximately 12 years ago. When I moved to Hays, I started working in the oil field. I worked there for 10 years. Well, when the oil prices dropped, I was one of the people that were laid off. I met Errol Works and got my real estate license, started selling real estate with Heartland Realty of Hays. I currently sell real estate with Landmark Realty. Once again, that wasn't enough to pay my bills, so I took a second full-time job. I work for West Husings out of Stockton. I work on gas stations. Some of you might have seen me at Southside or Serves. I work on the point of sales, dispensers. Most people would describe me as an intelligent, hardworking, honest person. I'm also very opinionated, and I live a very stressed life. My fellow candidates will share their unique perspectives on the issues as business owners, members of organizations, educators, and so on. My perspective is a lot more common. I'm just a guy that works too darn hard. Myself and many like me don't always feel like we're represented the best by the commissioners. A lot of us believe the commissioners push and vote for what they feel is best for the community and not listening to the people. Hayes knows what it really needs. We need more money. There are several issues that we could discuss tonight. I'm guessing there will be questions on economic growth, affordable housing, taxes, but we're really talking about money. There might be questions even on the school bond, roundabouts, and water, but we're really talking about money. We as a community need to find a way to bring higher paying jobs to
That's
Hayes.
time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your opening statement. Dustin, whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, I'm Dustin Rhodes. First I want to thank everyone for coming to this forum to become more informed voters, and to all the candidates who had the courage it takes to put their name on the ballot. It truly is never a decision to be taken lightly. However, I still feel odd having people refer to me as a politician, as I've always had a very negative connotation of that word. I'm the owner of Diamond R Jewelry in downtown Hayes. I've lived in Hayes for about a decade and attended FHSU. I'm running my campaign with the motto of conservatism, growth, and liberty. I've been a Republican since I became eligible to vote, and I consider myself a lifelong student of economics. And in that pursuit of knowledge, I have only strengthened my beliefs in free markets, limited government, entrepreneurial ingenuity, and capital investment. My hope is to bring the problem-solving skills that I have been honing in my small business over the past 6 years to the City Council. To look for efficiencies that may exist, facilitate effectively the parts of government I feel are necessary, like building and maintaining infrastructure and protecting citizens, and revitalizing business terms like return on investment within the city coffers. Meanwhile, remembering that nearly always private citizens spend their money more wisely. My hope is to become the type of commissioner that Hayes can be proud of, to have sat across the table from prospective businesses and instill a confidence that they can be successful in Hayes. By example, I hope to revive and grow an attitude of hard work and ingenuity within our economy, growing not just in number of citizens and jobs, but in overall GDP and employee earnings in Hayes. I also can only dream to emulate the warm-heartedness, hospitality, and overall great nature of the people of Hayes, and will pray every day that that becomes what I am as a representative of this community.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. And thank you to all the candidates for your opening statements. Now that we have completed those, I will be asking the candidates 3 prepared questions. Each candidate will receive 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. Based on the predetermined order, Chris Dinkel will be the first to answer. The first question for this evening's forum is, as a city commissioner, what would be the most pressing issue you would want to resolve?
The biggest issue for me is affordable housing. Now, there's been a lot of discussion of what that means. We've got rentals, we've got some low-income housing, we've got all those types of things. The trouble is that our median housing price is so much higher than the average across the state that if we're looking to recruit talent or even retain talent among Fort Hayes students, NCK Tech students, people from across the state, we're competing with places like Wichita, Topeka, Kansas City, or even as close as Russell, Great Bend, Dodge City, and Garden City. Our housing prices are considerably higher, $25,000 above the median in Kansas, and our wages are lower, $10,000 below the median. Now, we can't just ask all of our local businesses to start paying people $10,000 more. That's not going to work. Any business owner is going to just laugh at you. However, if we can work with developers, if the city can strategize on ways to partner with developers to build houses in the $125,000, $175,000 range, then people can stay here. You're looking at young professionals that like the community. It's a good community. We have good schools. We have it's a good city. It's a good place. But the opportunities here don't match the housing prices, and we need to work on ways to bring that more in line with the opportunities that are here in Hayes.
Thank you. Before we move to Sandy, It's been requested, John and Dustin, could you two share the mic, get your questions, move a little closer when you're answering John and a little closer when you're answering Dustin, just so the audience members in the back can hear a little better?
Yep, no
Thank you, because I took that break. I'll repeat the question.
Thank you.
Sandy, as a city commissioner, what would be the most pressing issue you would want to resolve?
I think there are a number of issues, but I think they all trickle back to the same thing, and that is sales tax revenue from the community. The commission made a decision, the city of Hays made a decision a number of years ago to run our general fund based on sales tax. If we don't have sales tax to continue to grow, we're going to have to look at other ways. I'm really proud that the city over the last numbers of years has worked with a balanced budget that has held the mill levy at 25, and I think that's for about the last 12 years. So I will take some credit for this year, but there's a lot of great commissioners from the past. I think we need to be looking at economic development to increase our sales tax in all aspects, not just retail, but commercial development as well.
Thank you. Mr. Mayers?
Hello. I believe our biggest problem is we need job growth. Not only do we need jobs, we need higher paying jobs. We need competition between those jobs. You bring in a company and they hire 200 people and pay them $25 an hour. Well, the next thing you know, other businesses are going to lose some of their employees to those companies. So guess what? We're going to have to start paying our city workers more, our teachers more, our nurses more. People need more money. We start talking about the school bond, roundabouts, our water, they all take money. Problem is our cost of living with the affordable housing and everything else, we don't have enough for all of it. We need more money.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
I would say my number one desire is to get economic growth started again in our community, to diversify our economy. The problem with that is economically it's pretty tough for a city government to do those kind of things. I've always talked about the city just being ready and willing and being ready when businesses present themselves to open them with open arms and figure out a way to make them successful within Hays. You can't do that by having a blank check for them, but you can do that by being cordial. You can do that by helping them in whatever ways you can. I think we need more retail. I think we need more manufacturing. But it's pretty tough to do that just from a city commissioner standpoint. But the best way to bring those businesses to me is to make ourselves a tax haven for those businesses and open them to the community and make them feel like they're going to be successful here.
Thank you. Mr. Musil?
Sure. Well, I want to clarify what Ms. Jacobs said. The residents decided to use the sales tax to pay for the general fund, and I know that's exactly what you meant. And the commissioners, it's up to us to be able to pay for stuff with the sales tax. And one thing I take great pride in is we've done a lot of street reconstruction and we pay as we go, and we have to continue to do that. But what the others said, everybody you talk to, they want more jobs, they want higher paying jobs. I actually reached out to the developers that developed Garden City, the big boom out there, because everybody says they want what Garden City has. And these guys are from North Carolina, and what they say, whether it's true or not, they want to be in Hays. But they say the land here is 4 times as much as what they paid there. And even if the city gave the same thing Garden City did, you know, they still couldn't be here. But we have to, and we've said this at meetings, we have to look basically under every rock, anything possible to get what people want here. And it's a tough sell with the high land prices. But, you know, it's a tough sell, but we got to keep doing it, and I think we are doing that currently. And that, you know, I've talked to many residents in town that own land, and they say, well, I do have high land prices, but I think my value is that much. And I don't think it's up to us to tell them that they should lower their price. But we have to keep looking for jobs, and I believe we will continue that.
Thank you. The second question we'll begin with Sandy Jacobs. And I know that many of you have already touched on this evening. But how would you develop opportunities to attract more people and businesses to stay and invest in our community?
I think it was said earlier, and I think it's very true. It's very difficult to actually do that sitting at the commission table. I think the thing that I talk about the most, and people probably get tired of me talking about, is I think we need a serious case of collaboration in this community. I think we need collaboration between the university, between Hayes Med, the city and county, as I said earlier. I truly believe if you put all those people behind a door and don't let them come out until they can be shoulder to shoulder, I think you'll come up with some amazing solutions. I've seen it happen over and over again. What the city can do, I think I said earlier, I'd look at everything that came to the table, every deal on its own merit. If it requires incentives to make it happen, we look at the plan. So I think as a commission, those are the things we can do, is continue encouraging people to come to the table and to consider our community and especially the quality of life here.
Thank you. Mr. Mayers, whenever you're ready.
Most of these businesses that we're going to try to recruit are going to ask for something. They're going to ask for tax abatements, TIFs, free infrastructure. So the big thing is the community would need to be behind that. They would have to agree to give up something. And I don't believe in a blank check either. It's going to be a case-by-case basis. So you need to ask them questions like, do they have a valid business plan? Do they, how many employees are they going to hire? What kind of wages are they going to pay? What as a community are we going to get back out of it? Does it fill a need? I think there's opportunities out there. I think there's opportunities that we've missed out on. And those opportunities, we say we're inviting, but there's only so many times that you're going to turn down these opportunities before you don't get any.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes, whenever you're ready.
Because I feel like the state of Kansas has made it tough on us for job creation in Hayes over the last legislative session. I think the best way to bring business people to Hayes, to give them a reason to be in Hayes in general, is to figure out a way to lower their tax burden. Whether that becomes from TIFs and CIDs, typically these are taxes that they put on their customers, and at least it's a consumption tax. We look at all those things. Like I said, sometimes it's just about being in a good economic atmosphere. If we can make the atmosphere seem like you can be successful in Hayes and that we have a workforce that's ready to go to work for you, I believe businesses will come here. Otherwise, if we can't figure out a way to make their tax burden less than other communities of our size throughout the country, the only other reason to be in Hayes is how great our people are, and we can't rely on that for everything.
Thank you. Mr. Musil, when you're ready.
For myself, I think we do a poor job of selling ourselves to others. As a small business owner now, and also my fellow commissioners laugh at me, I've been a part-time Uber driver. And people all over the country come to our town and brag about how great our town is, how clean it is, and how nice we are. And I think if we just, I think sometimes we stumble over ourselves complaining about what we don't have. And I think if we would just step up and say, look how good we really are. And I think if we would continue doing that, you'd be surprised how many people want to come here. Believe it or not, there's people that stop in Hayes all the time because we're kind of that middle of the road community. And I think we need to sell ourselves better. I think our CVB does a tremendous job. The chamber does a great job. But, and being downtown as a business owner now, it just blows my mind how many people stop off the interstate and just brag about it. They just can't believe how great it is. And to me, that's a huge asset for our community.
Thank you. Mr. Dinkle, when you're ready.
I think part of the problem with this is that we hear the same things over and over and over again, yet we haven't figured out ways to actually address them. We hear that real estate is just too high. We can't offer enough tax incentives to get businesses like our in Garden City because the land prices are absurd. Or we're losing people to other cities because houses are too expensive. We need to start getting creative in the incentives that we offer. Maybe we need to figure out ways to incentivize selling. Maybe we need to figure out a way to make it more worthwhile for these landowners that are sitting on these outrageously priced parcels of land to actually get rid of it. Maybe we need some sort of incentive to build houses that people can afford. We don't need to drop the real estate price across the board to be able to do that, but we need inventory in that area where people can buy a first home. People aren't going to come here and rent for 30 years. That's not feasible. You're going to start here and then you're going to move on to a metropolitan area. So I think we need to get creative about some of these things. These are problems that we've heard for years and years and years. They aren't going away, and we need to figure out ways to actually address the root cause of them.
Thank you. Before we move on to our third and final prepared question, I'd like to remind the audience that we do have time for audience questions. So if you would like to write that on the sheet on your chair and hold it up, a member of the Student Government Association will come around and bring it to our three unbiased screeners to my left. Based on the order, Mr. Mayers, you will be the first to answer our final prepared question. What do you see as a strength of the city of Hays, and how would you like to build upon that strength?
The biggest strength of Hays is the community, is the people. We have a wide range of a workforce, ranging from doctors and lawyers. We have several skilled laborers. They're educated. We have great streets. We have great parks. Our crime rate's low. There's no time of the day that I would not feel safe, any place in this town that I would not feel safe taking my children and playing. That is our strength. We are middle America. We're Hays America. That is what Hays is. That is our greatest strength.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes, whenever you're ready.
I can't give you a single strength. I'm going to give you multiple strengths. Obviously, our oil and our ag community are great. Fort Hays State University is one of the biggest economic drivers in our community, and Hays Med Center obviously as well. But I'll give you a strength that maybe not everybody's thought of in here, and that's our location. We're in the middle of America, and many of our retailers think of online commerce as a very negative thing instead of a positive thing. We're set up perfect for manufacturing and distribution across the country, and if we can play to that strength, maybe we can bring manufacturing to Hays, even more than we already have with companies like Wheelchairs of Kansas and A1 Plank and Rands. So there's all kinds of opportunities with our location, and to stop using the e-commerce as a negative word and start changing the mentality of businesses in Hays could really bode well for our economy and bring in some wealth creators into the community.
Thank you very much. Mr. Musil, whenever you're ready.
I will say water. When I moved to this community in 1995, the first thing I heard from my wife's aunt and uncle was saying, you got to conserve water here. I grew up out in western Kansas. Our town would be drying up. And if we continue what we're doing, we are in very good shape. We have to continue to work for a long-term water source, which I think we are very close to that happening. But I really think our biggest asset is what we've done with water. But as the other candidate said, this community is the best. I mean, it's the most welcoming community, from the churches to just the people. And I hear that over and over and over from people, and I'm very proud to be part of it.
Thank you. Mr. Dinkle, whenever you're ready.
We have a lot of strengths here. We have a great university, we have a great hospital, a great city as far as infrastructure goes, great people. When I think about strengths, I think about in terms of advantages toward further development. What sets us apart from other cities our size and other cities in the area? And one of the big things is that we are a regional hub. We draw retail from a significant radius around us. We are the medical hub. We are the educational hub. We really draw a lot of people from all over this part of the state. That's a strength in that it props up our economics, that we have a lot of people coming through. It can also be a weakness in that it can hide some of the diminishing that happens in rural America. Our population has been steady over the past several years. We're hanging right at that 20,000 mark. But what those numbers don't show is that a lot of people are retiring to Hays, which means if the numbers are staying steady, we're losing younger. And so we are a medical hub. We are going to have people retiring here because the hospital is very good and is local, but we need to recognize that we are actually losing people in the region, and our sales tax base, our retail base, our base of everything is diminishing.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobs?
It's really hard when you're the last one to go through on something like this. I really reiterate what the other gentlemen have said, and I-70 is a huge asset for us, being sitting right on I-70. The medical center, the university, the foresight in our city and county government has been outstanding in planning for the future of this community. You think about the water sources that we've worked on because I agree with Commissioner Musil that it is a strength. The most important part that I think, and I agree we're all wonderful people, but I think the biggest thing about these people, in my career, I spent a lot of time traveling around the state of Kansas. And more often than not, I would have somebody come up to me and say, Sandy, what is happening in Hays? What is going on? How does this work? And it's because you're great people, but it's also because you have an amazing can-do attitude. I have taken on so many projects in this community that people said can't happen, won't happen, people can't work that way. And we've been successful at it, not the least of which is our amazing downtown. So I think the can-do attitude of everybody in this room and outside this room is going to be outstanding for our future in this community.
Thank you very much. That concludes the first half of the forum for the Hays City Commissioners. We will now have questions from the audience. Again, each candidate will receive 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question based on the predetermined order. Mr. Rose will be the first to answer. As a little precursor for the USD 489 forum this evening, what is your position on the 489 bond issue?
Okay, I get the first crowd question. Great. I have quite a few questions about the bond. A few things that I've done a lot of research on. Like I said, I'm a very conservative guy. Do I think the city of Hays needs a bond? Yes. Do I know if this is the right bond? No. In my research, I've done a little bit of looking at, different things that they're doing. One thing I'm a big advocate for is using infrastructure that you already have, and whether or not that is possible with the building infrastructure that we have now, I would love to see more of that. The other thing I think of in all practicality is the idea that we're making things that are tornado proof. I believe that's an emotional play. I kind of did a little research, and from all that research I found that one kid in the entire history of our state has died in a school system from a tornado, and it was in the 1800s. Those are the type of things that, I'd almost rather make it more elaborate or nicer, more appealing to the community than spend money on things that maybe aren't necessary for a bond.
Thank you very much. Mr. Musil, when you're ready.
Well, for one thing, I'm not running for school board, but I do appreciate what those guys do. I guess to what Mr. Rose said is, and I would agree, I've heard this from other people. I guess they've read your website or whatever you got out there. One kid's only died in a tornado, but to me, I got 3 kids in the school system. 1 would be way too many for me. But on the other hand, to say I support the bond, I don't know, because I have not had the time to really take a look at it. I do know within the city, we have really doubled down on infrastructure, on water, sewer lines. We're redoing our wastewater plant, and I'm very proud of that. And, their funding is totally different than ours. I know it sounds like I'm skirting the question, but I truly don't know at this point, so I'm going to be honest. I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Dinkle, when you're ready.
I support the bond, period. I've been involved in the process from the beginning. We have looked to save whatever infrastructure we could. This was not something that we thought, let's just doze everything and start from scratch because that sounds fun. We looked at a lot of different things. Lincoln, for instance, we looked at what it would take to remodel that and bring it to a 4-section school and make it equitable with the other elementary schools. It would have cost $6 to $10 million more than building a new school to bring Lincoln up to spec. That's if nothing went wrong, and I guarantee you there's going to be asbestos, there's going to be all kinds of things wrong with that building. Similar thing goes with Wilson. We're talking about, in this bond, we would replace Wilson with a building built behind it. Wilson was going to cost $16 million to renovate, $21 million to replace. At that point, if you sink $16 million into a building that's already 50 years old, we're talking about a building that's going to be 80 by the time this bond is paid off. We're going to have to replace it again. Whereas if we build new now, everything will be up to code, everything will be new, fresh. We reset the clock on that school, and in 30 years when the bond's paid off, it'll be a 30-year-old school. The last thing is storm shelters are all academic parts of the building. We're not building a bunker for all the kids to go to. This is reinforced academic space. So it's a couple $1 million of reinforced bolts and concrete. We're not talking about tens of millions of dollars to do this.
Thank you. Mrs. Jacobs, when you're ready.
I'm still really working on understanding the whole bond, and I do independent research, as I said earlier, and I'm spending a lot of time reading about it. I have some great friends that are working on this project and have taken the time to sit with me and tell me about it. From the city standpoint, when the school board came before the city to talk about funding, I don't think we understood the plan. I don't think it was brought to us in a fashion that we really understood it. And from the city standpoint is where I'm looking at today as a city commissioner. I'm not willing to commit city sales tax dollars for the next 30 years for this or about anything. So to say with personally, I think our schools need improvement. I think some things need to be done. I'm not sure the $78.5 million is the number.
Thank you. Mr. Mayers, when you're ready.
It worries me. And it's not so much about the money on this one, it's about the 30-year term. And granted, those buildings will only be 30 years old at the end of that term. But what about the high school and Roosevelt and the middle school then at that time? Are we going to turn and the cost of construction probably foresee in 30 years is going to be twice as much. So we're going to go straight from a $78 million bond to straight to a $60 million bond. That is what worries me. Are we going to mortgage the future of our kids and our grandkids for an ever-revolving door? I am for a bond. I'm for a shorter-term bond for less money.
Thank you. For the second audience question, we will begin with Mr. Musil. How would you address the increasing number of rental homes that are uninhabited due to the increase of large-scale apartment complexes?
Well, I think we kind of talked about this earlier. I think we need more jobs in this town. And, I've talked to actually some of the guys that own some of those rentals, and some of it is, I guess what you would say by attrition. Some of them need to be torn down. Some of them are in rough shape, but some of them is with Fort Hays State building more apartments on campus. We're losing some of those, but on the other hand, I actually own one in town, and I've taken care of it, and I've had no problem, filling mine. But I know we're losing some. A lot of it's because of the oil being down. I'm hoping when that comes back, that will help. But we need to get more jobs in this town, and it's not easy. But we've all had questions. I'm surprised this really hadn't come up yet, but the Ellis County Coalition. We've talked about that. And the city, I think, we're going to start doing more of a focus doing it ourselves than depending on them completely, because we need to do everything we can to get more jobs in this community. Until we do that, I think it's going to continue to have a lot of open rentals.
Thank you. Mr. Dinkle, when you're ready.
The rental market is one that can really self-adjust. As Sean said, there are a lot of rentals in town that probably just need to be dozed. That's been a complaint for a long time. A lot of these rentals are the oldest buildings in town and are pretty rough shape. Some need to just be sold and renovated. There's a couple in my neighborhood that are starting to go that way, which would be great. You'd see some neighborhood revitalization over the course of that. The city's been incentivizing that type of thing, and that would be a very positive step. We have a lot of rentals, but we don't necessarily have enough good rentals. The apartment buildings help provide good, safe, clean environments. And a lot of the buildings around Fort Hays need some pretty major renovation or replacement.
Thank you.
Can I ask you to repeat the question, please? Thank you.
How would you address the increasing number of rental homes that are uninhabited due to the increase of large-scale apartment complexes?
That's what was a little tricky, saying it was due to the large scale. I think that that may not be the case, and we're spending a lot of time talking about housing and researching it, and I've met with a lot of people about it. I think we have about 150 units, if I'm correct, that are vacant today, and I think we have in excess of 1,600 units in our community. A 10% vacancy rate is considered healthy in the rental market in Hays. So I think the market will take care of itself. I do think there's some properties that need to be looked at and need to be changed, but I'm not sure that the vacancy rate we have today is a big problem.
Thank you. Mr. Mayers, when you're ready.
I pretty much, for the most part, agree with the previous three statements. More jobs. I don't necessarily think it's a high rate. One of the things, though, too, it is self-adjusting, supply and demand. If you're having a hard time renting out your rentals, then you either need to do something to bring the value up or you need to ask for less. I have a friend who is a very large property manager. He never has a problem with renting out his properties, but they're all very nice, and he adjusts the price accordingly to the market.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
It's interesting. We talk about high prices of houses, and then we talk about vacant rentals, and it seems to me almost an exercise in the power of the consumer within our community. I don't necessarily think it's something that, as a city commissioner, is something that I should be trying to meddle in as far as the economy in our housing market. That being said, I have, because of the dilapidated housing that is down by the college, I have, in passing a few times talked about the possibility of getting private investors together in a REIT project to take down some of those housing and build the large-scale apartment complexes that people are talking about, because my guess with those investments is that they're full, because they're nice and they're affordable, and that's what the free market has decided they want in Hays.
Thank you very much. For our third audience question, we will begin with Mr. Dinkle.
Yay.
This audience question reads, how important is the airport to our city?
It's very important. I sat in on a talk here a while back that talked about the three most important things for a city are the airport, the hospital, and the schools. And when you have those three functioning well, you have a very healthy city. This connects us to the rest of the world, and I think the city's done a very good job of managing the airport. The flights are at good times, they connect well, flying to Denver is effective, but it is very important, and it's something we need to continue to invest in and continue to support.
Thank you. Mrs. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Of course, the airport is very important to our community. When you talk about what the city can do to control that, there isn't a lot the city can do to control that. The one thing that we're doing a great job of right now, and I see our CBB director sitting in the audience, she's doing a great job of marketing that we can fly out of Hays and the cost efficiency of flying out of Hays. And I think we're all kind of talking about that, and it's our first look. When we're ready to travel, we're going to look at Hays first. It's extremely important, and we need it to continue to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Mayers?
Can you repeat the question?
I sure can. How important is the airport to the city of Hays?
I believe it's an important asset. Just like being halfway between Denver and Kansas City, we can maybe use that for future growth. Just like many things, we have to get creative, but I think we could be a shipping, warehouse, transportation depot here in Hays. And might need to be bigger, but that's one of the things we could ask from them is investment into our airport.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes, when you're ready.
I think an airport in a community our size is extremely important. It's extremely important for businesses that might want to come into Hayes, for the quality of life of our citizens to be able to get to different parts of the country or world in a relatively good time frame. I think it's important also for private flight. I mean, especially when we start talking about bringing in manufacturing and things of that nature, seems to be the way of the world that private flight is becoming much more affordable and something that we need to look at. But also important for regional shipping. If we start talking about bringing in manufacturers that would ship across the country, it could be very important that we have that access and a great airport to send their products all over the world.
Thank you very much. Mr. Musil?
As others have said, the city, in my term, we've spent millions of dollars just keeping the airport up to date, redoing runways, and we've also brought jet service to our community. And to have jet service in the community of 20,000 people is a great deal. I mean, you can get to Denver in 45 minutes. And I think that is a great marketing tool. And as Ms. Jacobs said, our CVB has done a great job of marketing our airport. We're getting people from Great Bend, Phillipsburg, all over the place to come out here. And as I said earlier, being an Uber driver, I have picked people up from literally all over the world. People from Scotland came here to work at Fort Hays State. And if we didn't have that, you just wonder if they'd consider coming here. And I think it's a great tool for the hospital, Fort Hays State, Midwest Energy, Sunflower Electric, all the big companies in town to recruit. And I think if we would lose that, we would lose a lot of dollars in our community.
Thank you. Because we have the time, I'll go ahead and ask our fourth question from the audience. This will then begin with Mrs. Jacobs. How would you go about improving the relationship between the City of Hayes and USD 489?
First of all, I'm not sure there is a huge problem between 489 and the City of Hayes. When we talk about the City of Hayes, I think, are we talking about the commissioners, or are we talking about staff? I think, back to my original comments about collaboration, I think the most important thing is that we don't sit in our own little worlds and make our plans and bring out and throw it out without any collaborative discussion. I think if we all get in the same room and talk through issues, whether it's with 489 or any other entity in the community, I really think it can happen. I think you're probably getting tired of hearing that word, but I spent a long career building consensus and collaborating with a very successful organization. It's possible, it can happen, and the people who live in this community to make it happen.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayers?
Yeah, I wasn't really aware that,
Sorry.
I usually speak loud anyway. I wasn't really aware either that there was a problem. I don't know if they mean with the city government or the community in general, or if it has to do with the bond and everybody thinks that everybody's out to get each other. I think most people could see the improvements to the school, even for or against it. I think we have some disagreements and different thought processes, but I don't think people hate each other over it, and I'm kind of the same way. If it goes through, I'm happy. I mean, my kid will still get a new school, and it'll be top of the line. And I just hope that I can continue to pay for it as long as I live here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rose, whenever you're ready.
I too wasn't aware. Obviously, I'm not on the city commission right now, so I was unaware that there was any problem with the relationship that was going on. But I guess I'll just say that it's obviously a mutual relationship. As the city is kind of put to the fire on growing the community and stuff of that nature, my hope would be on the city commission to make sure that we were all talking the same language, that we were all trying to save businesses money so that they can come here, so that our economy will thrive and we can pay for the type of things that the USD 489 needs to educate our kids. But that being said, collaboration for lower taxes will be one of my biggest things that I would like to have happen, and the USD 489 puts a lot of mill levy on our homes, on our businesses. Many people don't realize, but if you have a business that's $150,000 building, you're taxed at double the mill rate of a house. Being a small business owner, I know that. So when you start thinking about taxes and those type of things, I just want the discussion to be going in the right direction, and that's all I could do on that board.
Thank you very much.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Betcha.
Sorry.
Right. How would you go about improving the relationship between the City of Hayes and USD 489?
Well, for me, I think we do have a good relationship at times. I've got to know many of the board members and, listen to kind of what they go through. But I will say, and I don't think it's the current commission, but when they tried passing their first bond, I was kind of sickened on the way the city commission actually responded to the school board when they came in front of us. I personally don't think it was a good plan, but I mean, they were new at what they were doing, and I think we kind of slapped them around. And I just don't think that's the way you treat people. I don't think that's the way you go about. I mean, you can say no to somebody and don't have to disrespect them. And, I don't try to meddle in what they're doing, and I hope they wouldn't meddle in what we're doing. But that being said, we just hosted a statewide water conference here, brought people in to show what we're doing to conserve water, and the school district loaned us their buses to use. And we not only collaborate with them, we collaborate with the county to save taxpayer dollars. And I think we need to continue to do that, and the more we work together, it's better for the taxpayers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dingle, when you're ready.
As one of the people that got slapped around by the city commission, I appreciate it, that you feel bad. No, I love you all. I forgive you all. It's okay. I think there is a tense relationship among all three agencies, that a lot of times when the county and the city sit in the same room, there's fireworks. And when the USD 489 comes before the city and makes a request, there's fireworks. I think part of the issue is none of them know where the other ones are coming from. I think we can take steps to actually bridge that gap. One of my roles is at High Plains Mental Health Center's county liaison. So I travel around to all 20 counties in our catchment area and visit with the sheriffs and the hospitals and the schools to see how things are going and make sure that we can come alongside correctly. I think we need something similar with the commissions, whether we have a commissioner that sits in on school board meetings and county commission meetings and actually sees what the other boards are dealing with. That was part of the problem when the USD 489 came before the city commission, is they hadn't actually researched what the city was looking at doing, and so they made an unreasonable demand. We probably deserve to get slapped around a little bit. But that said, I think if the school board were attending city meetings, or someone from the school board was attending city meetings and vice versa, they would know where each other were at and where they could help each other.
Thank you very much. We have time for one more audience question, and this will probably lead nicely into your closing statements that follow. For our final audience question, we'll start with you, Mr. Mayers. What unique skill do you have that will help you be a good commissioner for the City of Hayes?
I think I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades. I've got a degree from K-State in civil engineering. I built houses. I set modular houses. I've built steel buildings. I worked on drilling rigs. And I sell real estate. And I pretty much kind of taught myself computer IT in 6 months for my new job. I've kind of done a little bit of all. I've met a lot of people. I travel a lot, and I think I'm a realist. I think I simplify complicated problems. Is what I usually do.
Thank you. Mr. Rose, when you're ready.
Can you repeat the question for me?
I sure can for you. What unique skill do you have that will help you be a good commissioner for the City of Hayes?
Okay, unique skill. I'm just a lowly small business owner on Main Street, but I would say if I had to give you a unique skill, I would say I have a business prowess. I've started a business from scratch and built it into something that is somewhat self-sustaining now, which is why I felt like I could run for city commission. But with that business, I had to learn a lot of problem-solving skills. We're just 6 years old now as a company, and it has taken so much problem-solving and dedication and capital investment to get where we're at today. And so in a community that relies so heavily on retail, I hope that, if I'm on the commission, I can help give a perspective from an actual retailer, from somebody who has started a business and grown it in the community.
Thank you very much. Mr. Musil, when you're ready.
Well, I guess one thing I would say, kind of like what Dustin was saying, being a brand new small business owner, I've learned a lot and really quick. You have to adapt. You have to adapt to your customers. You have to adapt to your employees. And just being, I was in sales for 10 plus years, and I've been yelled at and screamed at for ridiculous reasons, but you adapt and you just keep working at it. And, own a small business, I mean, you're the man. You have to know everything, and sometimes that's pretty hard. But, you can either throw your hands up or you can just work a little bit harder. And one thing as a city commission that I take very much pride of is I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. I'm not afraid to listen, and also not afraid to admit that, sometimes maybe I made a mistake, but I guarantee I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do better next time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dinkle, when you're ready.
I can make one mean scrambled egg. Sorry. No, that's... There was a couple years ago, we were at a Hayes Area Young Professionals luncheon, and we did a personality test. And I looked at it and said, oh, great, another personality test. It's going to tell me I don't have a personality because I'm always right in the middle somewhere. And this one called me a diamond, which made me feel very special because I kind of split the difference. But what it was that it allowed me, if I'm surrounded with detail people, to see the big picture. And when I'm surrounded with big picture people, that I can see the details. And that's something that I think would be a real strength on the City Commission, that we need people that have vision. We need people to cast a vision for the whole city and push us into the future. But we also need people that are willing to get down in the weeds and actually look at the details and make sure that the figures balance. So I can provide both. I think we have a lot of really great managers. I mean, the employees, the people on the commission really have things. We run a tight ship here. I think I could provide some vision to begin with, but as we start rolling, I'm not going to push us off a cliff either.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Jacobs, when you're ready.
We've talked a lot this evening about economic development, and I had a 40-year banking career. I have reviewed millions and millions and millions of dollars of loans and development projects, countless numbers of business plans, and I think I have a good understanding of that. I think that is a skill set that has been important, but it's kind of funny when you're looking at financials, and I made this comment at a city commission meeting. I love when they bring the budget to me, and they all kind of think I'm crazy. But one thing I did find out was budgeting for a municipality is a lot different than budgeting as you and I know it. So I'm learning as I go, and I'm going to make some mistakes as I go, but I still think I believe I'm bringing that skill set. The other thing, I think I really can build consensus. I believe I can bring people together and make things happen and bring all the right answers to the table because I know the people to bring to the table. And lastly, I understand what quality of life, how important quality of life is in Hayes. I spent time fortunately got to tour some professionals over the years in the community, and when they talk about the things that they want in our community, one of the first things they look at is, do you make your United Way goals? Our downtown has made huge strides in bringing people to our community, so I focus a lot on quality of life.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their statement, and we will begin closing statements with Mr. Rhodes, whenever you're ready.
Okay, once again, I want to thank everybody for coming to the forum tonight. I just want to reiterate what I alluded to in my first statement. If you want a city commissioner with business experience, a conservative nature, problem-solving skills, and who will always strive to make decisions analytically based on data and intelligent information, and will always avoid making decisions solely on emotion, then I'm your candidate. When you step in the polling booth, my biggest hope for my campaign is to have you excited about the future of Hayes and the person, image, and principles that will represent you on the commission. My love for the city of Hayes and desire I have to be more than just the skinny jeweler on Main Street prompted me to put my name on the ballot. I fully intend to go to work doing whatever I can to facilitate the prosperity of Hayes, and for all these reasons, I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Musil, when you're ready.
I just want to thank everybody and the candidates. I want to wish you guys all the best of luck. I hope I have the opportunity to do this again. And one thing about being a city commission, you meet some amazing people. And I see former State Senator Janice Lee out in the audience. And one thing about people like that is you can call them and you can ask questions. Sometimes you may disagree or agree, but you learn a lot about not only your community but your state. And I have met some just totally amazing people in this community. And I thought I knew a lot about Hayes when I first got on the commission, and I've learned so much by the people I've been surrounded by. And I hope you give me the opportunity to do this again, that I can continue to work on the long-term water source and the many other things that we have going on right now. And I think we have a great community, and with the people in this community, we can make it even better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dinkle, when you're ready.
I want to re-emphasize the fact that we really need to start planning for the future. The city is in great shape. Our roads are good. We're moving in the right direction on a lot of different things. But I think we need to start getting more aggressive about planning for the future. I think that's one of the benefits of the current school bond. It casts a long-term vision. It's going to set the district up to have good buildings for a very long time. And if any of my fellow candidates want to ask questions about the bond, I would be perfectly happy to answer any of them. There are a lot of things that we're doing well. I think the R9 Ranch is a good call. I think we need to be moving forward with water that can last a good long time. Infrastructure updates and budgeting for future replacement of roads is smart and necessary. We're doing a really good job on that. I don't think we're adjusting well to the retail revolution. We need to realize that the mall isn't empty because Hayes is a bad place. It's empty because people are buying on Amazon. And we need to figure out a way to adjust the way we do business to match that new model.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Jacobs.
Thank you. First thing I'd like you all to know is I really want to be your city commissioner. I got lucky being able to fill an unexpired term to kind of test the waters, but it became clear to me very, very quickly that I was right where I belonged. I have an extreme passion for this community. I was born and raised here, and I can tell you all the reasons why this community is wonderful. But really, for me, it's pretty simple. I'm committed to listening and providing that transparency, and I'll look at every opportunity on its own merit. It's my goal to establish a practice of collaboration, and I commit to you tonight, after listening to all this, that I will make sure that happens, that every major issue in this community is collaborated. I'll work every day to do the right thing. What makes sense for the community? I spent a banking career of 40 years just doing things that made sense for both parties, and I'd like to continue doing that for you. I think this is the best job I've ever had, and I hope I get the chance to do it for 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayers, when you're ready.
Well, first of all, I'm kind of known as a talker and a rambler, and I didn't really think the nerves kind of hit me doing this, but I haven't done anything like this since like high school, a long time ago. So hopefully I'm not, I've been told sometimes when I get nervous and I start talking, I concentrate, I come off kind of sounding mean, which most people know me as I'm kind of a big giant dork. So kind of get that out of the way, kind of loosen things up here a little bit. I love my community. It's not necessarily, I think that we have a bad local government. We've done a good job with taxes. When people complain about taxes, I think it's more of tax assessment. We do a good job taking care of our parks. I think most of the people, most of these candidates up here really do care about the community. And as much as I want you to vote for me, I think you're going to be in good hands regardless of the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayers. Thank you to all of the candidates. I think that they all deserve a round of applause from the audience.